Good morning, I'm Craig Negrelli. It's Thursday, January 2nd, 2025, and these are your Unbiased Updates. The death toll rises to 15 in the terror attack in New Orleans. This morning, what investigators have pieced together about the man who drove a pickup truck into a crowd of people on New Year's and how many others might have been involved. An explosion in Las Vegas, the blast in front of the Trump Hotel that has federal investigators trying to figure out a motive and if it also was terrorism.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
This morning, as we learn more about the suspect and victims of the New Orleans truck attack, the investigation has led authorities to a location in Houston, Texas. The FBI says it is believed to be connected to the suspect who killed 15 people and injured dozens more in the early morning hours of New Year's Day in what's being called by federal authorities as a deliberate act of terror.
It did involve a man driving a pickup truck down Bourbon Street at a very fast pace, and it was very intentional behavior. This man was trying to run over as many people as he possibly could.
New Orleans Police Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick describing the suspect, identified as 42-year-old U.S. Army veteran Shamsuddin Bahar Jabbar of Texas. Jabbar had served in the Army on both active and reserve duty, including a deployment to Afghanistan in 2009. Authorities say Jabbar drove a white Ford pickup truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street in the French Quarter in New Orleans around 3:15 Wednesday morning, just hours into the new year. The suspect then opening fire on responding New Orleans police. Officials saying officers shot and killed Jabbar. 2 officers were injured in the shootout. Investigators found an ISIS flag on the truck's rear bumper, weapons, and 2 improvised explosive devices in the vehicle, with reports saying at least 1 other IED was found in the area and detonated by law enforcement. City officials say Jabbar was able to drive around security barriers set up to deter vehicles from entering the area where people were gathering. Kirkpatrick saying the suspect drove onto the sidewalk, striking the victims, leaving at least 15 dead and more than 30 others injured. According to the city, construction was underway on the barriers as New Orleans prepares to host the Super Bowl in February. During a press conference later in the day from Camp David, President Biden said the FBI informed him they were looking at social media videos posted by the suspect just hours before the attack, indicating he was inspired by the radical Islamic group ISIS. In addition, Jabbar's brother told the New York Times Jabbar converted to Islam at a young age, but that this act was not religion, but some type of radicalization. With the FBI believing Jabbar did not act alone, President Biden says he has directed the U.S. intelligence community to work intensively to complete its investigation.
To all the families of those who were killed, to all those who are injured, to all the people of New Orleans who are grieving today, I want you to know I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you. The law enforcement and intelligence community are continuing to look for any connections, associations, or co-conspirators. We have nothing additional to report at this time. The investigation is continuing to be active, and no one should jump to conclusions.
The president also said authorities were looking into any possible connection with an explosion outside a Trump hotel in Las Vegas. Vehicles in both incidents were rented from the platform Turo, which allows car owners to rent out their vehicles. We will have more on the Las Vegas explosion coming up in just a bit in this broadcast. The deadly attack in New Orleans led to the postponement of the Sugar Bowl at the Superdome, which is located less than 1 mile from Bourbon Street. That game will now be played this afternoon. And later this morning, the FBI will hold a briefing with House and Senate oversight committees on the New Orleans attack. As details emerge about the New Year's Day attack in New Orleans, we are starting to learn more about the victims. This morning, some of those killed have been identified by family and friends. Kareem Badawi, a recent graduate of the Episcopal School of Baton Rouge. The school saying Badawi was attending the University of Alabama. Reggie Hunter was a 37-year-old father of 2. He worked as a warehouse manager. Tiger Beck, a former football player at Princeton University. The 27-year-old had moved to New York to work for a capital markets firm. Nakira Cheyenne Doe, an 18-year-old from Mississippi who is set to attend college where she planned to major in nursing. And Nicole Perez, a 27-year-old mother who worked as a store manager. Perez, like the other victims, was out with friends on Bourbon Street to celebrate the new year. These are only a few of the names of the more than a dozen victims killed in the attack. More about their stories and the other victims will be learned in the days ahead. Now to Las Vegas. Authorities in Nevada are working to figure out if the explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck outside President-elect Donald Trump's Las Vegas hotel on New Year's Day was an act of terrorism. They say the driver, who died in the explosion, used fireworks, gas tanks, and camping fuel connected to a detonation system to set it off. 7 people who were nearby got hurt when the blast happened. Law enforcement officials have not identified the suspect because the person was badly burned in the explosion. They say the Cybertruck was rented in Colorado and arrived in Vegas about 1 hour before the explosion. Investigators have now apparently identified the person who rented the truck. They say the suspect drove up and down Las Vegas Boulevard before pulling up to the Trump Hotel and its glass doors. The truck exploded seconds later. And as we reported earlier, investigators are also working to figure out if this incident was related to the terror attack in New Orleans. Elsewhere, power is now mostly restored to homes and buildings across Puerto Rico after a massive blackout left the U.S. territory in the dark New Year's Eve. But that might not be the end for some. Luma Energy, the company that provides electricity to Puerto Rico, has warned more temporary outages could happen as full restoration of power to the entire island could take up to 2 days. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the outage, but Luma Energy says a preliminary review indicates a failure in an underground electric line. This is just the latest incident to highlight an ongoing problem with Puerto Rico's power grid. In August, half of all Puerto Rico's utility customers lost power during Hurricane Ernesto. It took more than a week to get it back. Get ready to bundle up. Arctic weather will take over the warmer than usual temperatures that kicked off 2025 for a large part of the United States. Over the next couple of days, the coldest air of the season will move into the eastern part of the U.S., dropping temperatures to nearly 30 degrees below average in some areas. It is winter after all, right? While the bitterly cold air has already started to move in, the worst of it is expected to hit next week. Forecasters say after the first wave of cold, 2 more rounds of Arctic air will move in from Canada, setting up parts of the U.S. for a long-lasting run of freezing temperatures. Finally this morning, the college football playoff provided lots of New Year's excitement. Texas won a double overtime thriller. Ohio State routed Oregon, and the top 4 contenders for the championship will be set after Notre Dame and Georgia face off in the Sugar Bowl this afternoon. That game was originally set for yesterday in New Orleans, but was postponed after the deadly terror attack. The winner of the Sugar Bowl will move on to the Orange Bowl to face Penn State. The Nittany Lions defeated Boise State at the Fiesta Bowl 31-14 on New Year's Eve. Texas and Ohio State will face off in the Cotton Bowl after Texas edged Arizona State in double overtime at the Peach Bowl on Wednesday. That was a great game. And Ohio State shocked the nation with its thumping of top-seeded undefeated Oregon in the Rose Bowl. The semifinal games are now the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. They will be played next week and determine who will go head-to-head for the College Football National Championship. Those are your unbiased updates for Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.